It's 2 in the morning, the house is quiet, the lights are off, and everyone should be asleep. Somewhere in the room, your dog has a perfectly good bed. Maybe it's soft, warm, and placed in their favorite corner. They also have the couch, a rug, or several comfortable spots they use during the day. And yet, almost every night, they walk past all of it and climb onto your bed. They circle once or twice, settle down beside you, and press their body against your leg as if that exact place was chosen on purpose. Most people assume the explanation is simple. Maybe the dog is cold, maybe they're spoiled, or maybe they've just developed a habit. But behavioral science suggests something much deeper. For animals, sleep is the most vulnerable state possible. When a dog falls asleep, their awareness drops and their ability to react to danger becomes limited. Because of this, their brain instinctively searches for the safest place before resting. And night after night, your dog makes the same choice. Not the couch, not the floor, not the warmest spot in the room. They choose you. And according to scientists, that choice reveals far more about trust, attachment, and evolution than most dog owners realize. Scientists began to notice something unusual when they studied how dogs behave around their owners. The patterns looked strangely familiar. The way dogs follow their owners from room to room, become anxious when separated, and calm down the moment their owner returns seemed almost identical to behaviors seen in human children. To investigate this, researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest decided to try something bold. They adapted a famous psychological experiment originally designed to study infants. The test is called the Strange Situation Procedure, developed by psychologist Mary Ainsworth to measure how strongly babies are attached to their mothers. When the same test was applied to dogs, the results surprised even the researchers. Dogs showed the same core attachment behaviors seen in toddlers. They sought proximity to their owner, showed visible stress when the owner left the room, and relaxed quickly when the owner returned. In other words, the emotional bond between a dog and its owner functions in a way that is remarkably similar to the attachment between a child and a parent. In the study, about 61% of dogs were classified as securely attached to their owners, which is almost exactly the same percentage found in human infants. This means that many dogs see their owners as a secure base, the individual they rely on for safety and emotional stability. So when your dog climbs into bed beside you at night, it isn't just seeking comfort. From a psychological perspective, your dog is doing something deeply instinctive, staying close to the individual they trust the most when they are at their most vulnerable. But the bond between dogs and humans isn't only psychological. Scientists later discovered that something even more fascinating is happening inside the brain. In the next part, we'll look at a discovery involving a powerful neurochemical called oxytocin, often known as the bonding hormone, and how it creates a biological connection between dogs and humans that no other species shares. The connection between dogs and humans doesn't stop at behavior or psychology. Scientists eventually discovered that this relationship also operates at a chemical level inside the brain. In 2015, researchers at Asabu University in Japan published a remarkable study in the journal Science. The team examined 30 pairs of dogs and their owners and measured changes in a hormone called oxytocin during their interactions. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone. In humans, it plays a major role in social attachment. It floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn baby and helps create the deep emotional bond between parent and child. What the researchers discovered was extraordinary. When a dog and its owner looked into each other's eyes, both experienced a measurable increase in oxytocin levels. The dog's oxytocin rose, and the owner's oxytocin rose as well. This created a positive feedback loop. The more the dog gazed at the owner, the more oxytocin increased, which strengthened the emotional bond between them. In other words, both brains were reinforcing the relationship at the same time. To confirm the finding, scientists repeated the experiment with wolves that had been raised by humans. Surprisingly, the same effect did not occur. Even though the wolves were comfortable with people, the oxytocin loop failed to activate. This suggested something profound about dogs. Over thousands of years of living alongside humans, dogs appear to have evolved a unique biological system that strengthens emotional bonding with people. It's not simply training or familiarity. It's a neurochemical process shaped by thousands of generations of coexistence. and physical closeness seems to intensify this bond even further. Studies show that just 10 minutes of petting a dog can reduce cortisol levels, the body's main stress hormone, in both the human and the dog. Now consider what happens during an entire night of sleeping side by side. But to understand why dogs are so comfortable sharing sleep with humans, we have to go back much further, long before modern homes, long before cities, and even before agriculture existed. Because the habit of dogs sleeping near humans may have started 15,000 years ago. To understand why dogs are so comfortable sleeping beside humans, we need to go back far beyond modern homes, cities, or even agriculture. The relationship between dogs and humans began roughly 15,000 years ago, long before people built permanent settlements. At that time, humans lived in small groups and moved frequently as hunter-gatherers. Camps were temporary, fires burned at night, and food scraps often remained around the edges of human activity. Some wolves began approaching these camps, attracted by the smell of leftover meat and bones. Most wolves stayed away. They were cautious and easily frightened. But a few were different. The wolves that were slightly less fearful of humans could get closer to the camps and access more food. Over many generations, those animals survived and reproduced more successfully than the more aggressive or fearful ones. Gradually, their behavior began to change. Scientists believe that these friendlier wolves slowly evolved into the earliest domestic dogs. Natural selection favored individuals that were more tolerant of human presence, more cooperative, and more interested in human interaction. Archaeological evidence supports this idea. In Germany, researchers discovered a burial site dated to about 14,000 years ago. Inside the grave were 2 humans and 2 dogs buried together. One of the dogs had previously suffered from canine distemper, a severe disease that usually kills animals within a few months. However, the bones showed that the dog had survived for several weeks while sick. For that to happen, someone must have cared for it, feeding it and protecting it while it recovered. This suggests that even in prehistoric times, dogs were already more than working animals. They were companions. Genetic research has also revealed something fascinating. Domestic dogs carry specific genetic changes in a region of chromosome 6 associated with friendliness and social behavior toward humans. Wolves do not have these same genetic patterns. In other words, dogs were gradually shaped by evolution to seek out human contact, cooperate with us, and remain close to us. Sleeping beside humans may not be a modern habit at all. It may simply be a behavior that has existed since the earliest days of the human-dog partnership. But modern science has discovered something even more surprising. Even though dogs can sometimes disrupt our sleep, many people actually report sleeping better when their dog is nearby. In the next part, we'll look at what researchers found when they measured the sleep quality of people and their dogs over an entire week. At first glance, sleeping with a dog in your bed sounds like a terrible idea for good sleep. Dogs move, stretch, change positions, and sometimes decide that 3 in the morning is the perfect time to readjust their entire body across the mattress. From a purely mechanical perspective, that movement should interrupt sleep, and in some ways it does. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic decided to measure this scientifically. They monitored the sleep patterns of 40 adults and their dogs over 7 nights, using clinical sleep trackers to record movement and sleep cycles for both the humans and the animals. The data showed something interesting. Dogs did cause measurable sleep disruptions. When the dog shifted position or moved during the night, the owner often experienced brief micro-awakenings. These interruptions were real and could be detected by the tracking devices. But here is the surprising part. Even though the data showed slightly more sleep interruptions, most participants reported feeling more comfortable and more relaxed when their dog slept nearby. Many said they actually felt more rested overall. Another study from Canisius College surveyed nearly 1,000 women about their sleep habits and found a similar pattern. Participants rated dogs as less disruptive than human bed partners and often described their presence as calming and reassuring. Follow-up research using motion trackers suggested an explanation. Owners did wake briefly when the dog moved, but the awakenings were so short that most people did not remember them in the morning. Meanwhile, the feeling of security from having a trusted companion nearby appeared to reduce anxiety and stress during the night. In other words, even if the sleep was technically interrupted, the perceived quality of rest often improved. This may also connect to something deeper in human history. For most of our existence as a species, humans rarely slept alone. Early human groups typically slept close together for warmth, safety, and protection from predators. The modern idea of sleeping completely alone in a silent room is actually a very recent development in human history. Your dog's presence beside you may be recreating something far older, a sense of shared safety that both species evolved to recognize. But researchers have recently discovered something even more remarkable. When dogs and their owners rest together, their bodies may actually begin to synchronize at a physiological level. In the next part, we'll look at a study that measured the heart rhythms of dogs and their owners and found that their nervous systems can begin to move in sync. Recent research suggests that the bond between dogs and humans may go even deeper than comfort or emotional attachment. In some cases, their bodies appear to synchronize in measurable ways. A 2024 study from the University of Jyväskylä in Finland examined the heart rate variability of 30 dog-owner pairs across several different conditions. Heart rate variability, often called HRV, is one of the most reliable indicators of how the autonomic nervous system is functioning. Higher HRV generally means the body is relaxed and well-regulated, while lower HRV is often associated with stress. When researchers analyzed the data, they noticed a consistent pattern. The physiological responses of the dogs and their owners often moved together. When the owner's nervous system was calm, the dog's heart rhythm tended to stabilize as well. When the owner became stressed, the dog's physiological signals frequently shifted in the same direction. The synchronization was strongest when the dog and the owner were resting close to each other. To test whether this was simply a general response to human presence, researchers repeated the measurements with dogs resting near unfamiliar people. In those situations, the synchronization almost completely disappeared. The pattern only appeared in bonded pairs. This suggests that dogs are not just emotionally connected to their owners. Their nervous systems may actually co-regulate with the person they trust most. Over time, the presence of a familiar human can help stabilize the dog's stress response, while the calm presence of the dog may have a similar effect on the human nervous system. When a dog sleeps beside its owner, the relationship is not simply psychological comfort. It may also involve two biological systems quietly influencing each other throughout the night. But there is one more detail about sleeping habits that dog owners should pay attention to, because sometimes the most important signal isn't when a dog chooses to sleep beside you. It's when they suddenly stop. In the final part, we'll look at why a change in a dog's sleeping behavior can sometimes be an early sign that something in their life or their health has changed. For many dogs, sleeping beside their owner becomes a nightly routine that lasts for years. They climb onto the bed at roughly the same time, curl up in the same spot, and settle into a familiar rhythm that both of you come to expect. So when that routine suddenly changes, it is usually not random. Dogs are creatures of habit. Their daily behaviors tend to be very consistent, especially when those behaviors are tied to safety and attachment. Because of this, veterinarians and animal behaviorists often pay close attention when a dog abruptly changes where they sleep. Sometimes the reason is environmental. A new person in the house, another pet, changes in household noise, or a shift in your schedule can all affect how a dog chooses to rest. Dogs are extremely sensitive to changes in their environment, and even small differences that humans barely notice can feel significant to them. But in some cases, the cause may be physical. Veterinary researchers have found that changes in sleep location can be one of the earliest behavioral signs of pain in dogs. A dog that suddenly stops jumping onto the bed may not have simply lost interest. They may be experiencing discomfort in their joints, back, or hips, making the jump more difficult. In older dogs, disrupted sleep patterns can also be associated with canine cognitive dysfunction, a condition often compared to dementia in humans. Studies estimate that around 35% of dogs over the age of 8 show some signs of this condition, which can include confusion, restlessness at night, and changes in familiar routines. Because dogs cannot explain what they feel with language, their behavior becomes their primary way of communicating. A change in habits is often their way of telling us something has shifted. So the next time you wake up in the middle of the night and notice your dog pressed against your legs, taking up more of the mattress than seems physically possible, remember what that moment represents. Your dog walked past every other comfortable place in the house and chose to sleep beside you. That decision is the result of thousands of years of shared history, a bond reinforced by brain chemistry, and an attachment system that mirrors the connection between parent and child. To your dog, sleeping beside you is not just a habit. It is the safest place in their world. And according to science, that quiet presence beside you might be doing something important for your own mind and body as well. If this changed the way you think about your dog, let me know in the comments. Where does your dog sleep tonight?